So welcome to our last group coaching session in July. I know we've kind of been together on and off and saw each other last week. I think you're going to really enjoy today's session as we jump into some ways to integrate games into your instruction. So we will kick off with our standard disclaimer.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number ED-BSE 15A0015/0006 with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
All right. Well, as we get going today, I know we have a couple of people who are on their first session. So these are our more informal sessions. So if you have questions as we're going through, just unmute yourself and ask. We can discuss. You can always just pop your question in the chat box and I'll be kind of watching that as we go along, and you can ask your question that way. But it'll be just kind of a nice casual time to talk about some ways that we can integrate games. And I think these are some really fun resources as we go through. So we're going to look at three things in particular today. We're going to look at Doozy, we're going to look at Kahoot, and we're going to look at Flippity. So three different ones, and I'm curious, you can use your chat box to share. If you have used any of those three, will you put that over in the chat box? So if you've ever tried out Doozy, Kahoot, or Flippity, just pop that in the chat box. And I know it's always interesting to see who's tried things out and what's worked possibly. And it looks like a couple of folks have tried out Kahoot. Beijing and Katie, Susan, and Lisa. So we've got a little bit of experience with Kahoot. I'm going to show you maybe some different things than what you've done in Kahoot, maybe not. But looks like Doozy and Flippity are going to be new for everybody. So let's get started because we have a lot to look at. So the first one is Doozy, and I'm starting out with the one that I think personally is the easiest to use. So it's kind of the most simple version. Now, as usual, I'm going to go live to the internet and show you exactly how it works. So I'm going to stop that share and switch over to real Doozy. Plus it just has, all of our things today have good names. All the ones for games have some good names. So let's click over to Doozy, and it has a pretty basic interface because again, it's going to be your most simple version. So basically when you get here, you can create a game, you can find a game, you can see the games you've made before, or you can enter a game code to join, which is what your students would do. So if you had provided them with a game code, then they would pop it in there and hit join game and be able to start playing. Now, if you scroll down, it does kind of give you some basics. It has even a little intro video that you can watch as you're getting started. But in general, it doesn't have a ton of information on it, because the reason that these folks created this was to make a very easy to use, simple game platform. Now, one of the biggest differences about Doozy is that you do not have to create an account. So most of the game platforms, you have to create some type of account to then use their product. This, you don't have to create any type of account. You can just start using it. And same thing for your students. They don't have to create any kind of account. The other thing is, like all the things we've been looking at, it's entirely free, which is always the right price. So if you wanted to just use a ready-made quiz, you can use Find a Quiz. And you can see, you can go down through all kinds of things, random. You can do it that way. But we're going to create a quiz. So when you want to create your quiz, you have to give it a name. So I'm going to say that it's Sarah's sample quiz. Give it some sort of short description. You can add a photo. This could be particularly helpful if you're trying to help your students identify they're in the right place. You might use a school logo or something like that. And then you do have to put in your email because they have to be able to send you your link. And that way you can actually access your game. So I'm going to pop in my email address, hit next, and it's creating my game. Now, one thing to note as it's creating my game, there is a 20 team limit on Doozy games. Now, that doesn't mean over time. So if students are playing it, over time, it can be as many as you want, but only 20 at one single time, okay? And when it says teams, it's because if you wanted to get everybody together online and have them work collaboratively in teams, you could have, say, 40 students working in pairs, whatever works. All right, so now we're in our thing, and you notice you can actually add rounds. So maybe you wanted to do a quiz using some vocabulary. So the first round might be number words. The second round might be words, vocabulary words for your family. Third round might be color words. So you can name them. So let's do, no, I don't want to name it after some event. That's not fun. We're going to do food words. That's fun. So let's say that that was going to be our focus. I can also upload a photo here and use that for my quiz. So I can always do it at any time here, but I'm going to add a question. So you see, it's just a simple click. And then I can go right here and say, okay, name this fruit in Navajo. I can assign it a point value. Maybe this is a 2-pointer. I can upload a photo. Now, if you're looking for photos, I am going to show you, you get 2 bonus resources today. I'm going to show you 2 of my favorite places to get royalty-free images that you can use in your games or maybe in your lessons, your online lessons. So I usually, as my kind of first go-to either Pixabay or Flat Icon. So Pixabay, let's say I'm looking for a picture of, I don't want an orange because it always comes back with colors too. Let's look for an apple. We'll go very basic. Apple. So you can look through, and all of these images it's showing me, I can use for free. Now I can also set this to transparent, which I like to do a lot. If I set it to transparent, it's going to be the type of image where it doesn't have a background. It just has the apple. So I like this apple. That looks pretty realistic. Not the angry one that looks like the food poisoning apple. So if I find it, then you can just click free download, pick out, hit download, and you'll notice it even says crediting isn't required, but linking back would be appreciated. So you can totally use those images. It downloads it, and then you can use it. The other one that I use a good bit is called Flat Icon. And this is good for more of the kind of cartoony icon looking images. And same thing, let's say I want an apple. And Flat Icon does have a paid option as well. So you'll notice any of the images that have this little crown under it would cost money. So avoid those. Go for the ones like this apple that does not have a crown under it and pick it out. The other nice thing is if you create a free account, you can actually change the color of a lot of these images. So if you found a really cool red apple, but you needed it to be green, you can actually change the color, but you do have to create a free account for that. So just a little tip, a little bonus if you sign up for their free account. So those are kind of the 2 places that I tend to look for images. to use in this type of thing. There's lots of other great resources out there, but those are just two that I usually am able to find good stuff at. So if I want to upload that, then I can just click upload. It'll go straight here to my files where I can pick out my apple and pop it in. And then I do have to put in some type of answer. So that's my answer. So I'm going to save that question. And then I can go to my next. Now the other option is you can go with a multiple choice question. And so at that point, you could always do like apple. And of course, these would actually be in language. Apple, orange, banana. And let's say we had uploaded, and we could save that one. Oh, I do have to indicate which one's going to be right. Let's see, apple. All right, so you see how that works. It's very easy to use, very user-friendly. You could even have students create these for each other, which would be, I think, really fun. Now, you also notice up here, they got round 1. So like I said, if you want to add a second round, it's super easy. Just hit add. Now I have a new round where I'm going to do color words. And then I can start putting in my questions there. The only other thing to be aware of is public means that, like we saw before, anybody who comes on the Doozy site could play your quiz. If you'd rather them not, then you just switch it to private, and only those people who have your gang code will be able to play. Okay, so that's how you kind of toggle between those two, so you do not have to make it public. When you're ready, you can go ahead and hit run quiz, and it's going to give you a couple of options. There's Quizmaster, which would be where you as the teacher are hosting the quiz with your students live. There's Challenge Myself, where you can just take it yourself. That's also where you could have students take it themselves. And then Play with Friends. That's if you're going to play against the students as well. Okay, so we're going to do Quizmaster just so you can see what that looks like, because I think that's commonly how you would be using it. You'll notice you've got your code, so you would just give your students that code, and they would log in on that main screen, and they would start showing up here, because you notice it says waiting for teams to join. So their names would start popping up, and then once you see that they're on, you can hit Start Quiz. And you'll see it's got the big picture, it's got the question in very large font. Okay, and when you finish, you can see that it would list out your teams here, along with how many points they got.
Will it show, so could this be something that you could use as like a timed competition for the kids? Like it'll show up their times so you can see who finished first or second, or?
Oh, that would show how quickly they finished? It's not going to show how quickly they finished. It'll just show how many they got correct. Yeah, good question. But I can see if there is one that has a timing on it, if we're looking for like a speed round. Maybe make note of that. So yeah, this one is just going to show you that overall score. Let me go through, and then you would see just the final. Now, once you create a quiz, you can always go back at any point and edit it and make changes. But that's basically all there is to it with this particular one. These little dots here are how you can move your questions around. But other than that, that's really all you have to do to be able to make a quiz in Doozy. It's going to email you the link to it. so that you don't have to, keep it up on your screen to keep it live. You'd be able to access it at any time from that link. But super easy, super simple, something that would be easy for you to make a quiz, as well as I think your students would have fun making quizzes for each other even. Any questions on Doozy before we keep going? All right, so we're going to switch over to Kahoot, and I'm going to show you a few things there, and we're just going to go straight there.
Wait, I have a quick question.
I'm ready.
Okay. So the students, they play the game, and are there any summary?
Yes. So at the end, once you hit that end game, you can look at how they did on each question, and then you can also see how they did overall. Now, it's not going to put it in a report. It's just going to show you there on the screen.
Oh, okay. So then you can do the formative assessment.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. All right. Any others? Okay. So let's take a peek at Kahoot. I know a few of you said you tried out Kahoot before and some not. You'll see Kahoot works in a very similar way to Doozy, but it just has some additional features, and it is one that you would create an account. Now, like a lot of programs, Kahoot has a couple of different levels of program. The basic level, totally free. You do create a login so that you can get to all the information and save your quizzes and things, but it doesn't actually cost anything. There are levels beyond that that cost anywhere from $3 to $9 a month, depending upon what features you want to activate. Now, I'll tell you, I do have the pro level account, so I do have some features that are at that paid level in mind, but I'll be sure to show you the difference as we're going through so you can see that. So this is just your homepage when you first log into your Kahoot account. And so it's showing you any new information that you might want to check out. They did just do a learning summit, like a professional conference online. So they have some good recorded webinars that you can watch if you want to learn more about using Kahoot, including they had a distance learning panel. So those are all recorded and you can watch those on Kahoot. It's also got Kahoots that other people have created. So you can always look for one that might kind of be set up the way you'd like and take it and then tweak it. So, you can start with their template and work from there instead of starting from scratch. And then you'll also see all of the ones that I have. So in this particular account, because I like to be confusing and have more than one account, I'm going to show you one that I created that kind of uses a lot of the different question types so you can see what that looks like. So when I go over, we're going to look at this safety presentation. And you'll notice that I've got it set to visible to everyone, but you can also set it visible to only you. It's got lots of different settings as far as who can see your Kahoots. So again, if you only want your students to see it, that is an option. It doesn't have to be public. So I'm going to hit edit so you can see what it looks like in that edit screen. And it'll pull it up. Possibly, there we go. And you'll see it's kind of similar to PowerPoint in how it kind of sets up your screen. You've got your slides of your game all along this left side. And then you can edit right here in this area. Now, this particular one, you can see this is just an information slide. There's no question that anyone would be answering. In the basic account, you can only use question slides, okay? So you don't get to use information slides until kind of that next step up, but still very informational even with just the question slides. So this is your basic question slide. You're able to type your question in the top, and you can kind of see the different formatting for how you can set that up. Pop in an image. On the free account, it works just like Doozy. You find an image you like. It might be a picture that you've taken. Maybe you're using some images from your community. You can use whatever image you like, pop it in there. On any of the paid accounts, they have a database of free images that you can use. So that's also an option that makes it super easy too. You'll notice a time limit here. And if I click on it, see how it just looked like 20 seconds? But once I click on it, I've got this wheel of time options. So I can give people as little as 5 seconds. Maybe it's just a true false question, so you don't feel like they need much time. Or maybe it's a really challenging question, and so I want them to have 90 seconds, a whole minute and a half. Whatever you think they're going to need, you can pick that time limit. So I'm going to set it back to 20. And then answer options. Now this is another one. On the basic account, you have to have one right answer. On any of the paid accounts, you can have multiple answers that are correct. So we've got a single answer. This one I set up like a true false question. So it's just yes or no. But you can, as soon as you type, it activates that next answer. So maybe my other option is maybe. And you'll notice now that's an active answer choice for them. The other option that I think is pretty neat and is available on all the accounts, even the basic one, is if you don't want them to be picking a word, if you wanted them to pick an image. So maybe you have a sentence up here and you want them to then pick the image that it describes. You can actually upload an image as your various answer choices. So you could write a sentence describing something and then put 2 to 4 different images up for them to pick what it is you're describing. Okay, so just kind of a neat option, I think. Now let me show you a different one. So this is another one. You can see I've got different option choices there. You always have to indicate which one is the correct answer. You can also pick how many points. So, you know, for your more challenging questions, you might want to up it and they get 2,000 points. Or maybe it's a super easy one. So you want to lower it. Well, not 0 points. It's not that easy. Well, maybe 0. It is an option. Let me show you this one. This is another one that's an option on any version of the paid account, is that you can do an image reveal like this, where it starts slowly populating it, which can be kind of a neat additional option. Another thing that's available on any of the paid levels is the puzzle version. So with this, the students would actually put these in order. So you could give them something and ask them to sequence them. So that's another option. So as they go through, and this is what it would look like if you did more than one correct answer. So if they answer any of those 3, they would get the points for that question. So that's kind of your various options within there. Now, when you want to add a question, it's super easy. You'll see these options over here. You can either just hit add a question. You can use their question bank if you want to look at maybe how other people have phrased their questions or things like that. The one for import slides and import spreadsheet, you'll notice I don't have the highest level of paid account, so I can't even import slides. That's on the fanciest level of account. But I can import a spreadsheet. But just other things that are options within that, depending on if you decided that was worth it. But let me show you how to add a question. Super easy. It'll show you all the different types of options here. So I can do just the quiz. Again, that's where you can give them option choices. They pick them. The true, false. Typing an answer, again, that's on a paid level. The puzzle is on a paid level, as is poll and slide. So these 4 are for paid account. These 2 are for the free account, just to kind of give you an idea there. Now, the other thing I want to show you, so you'll see it's very, very similar to the doozy and how you're setting it up, just with some extra kind of fancy options. But one of the things that is a little bit different, so let me exit. Yeah, I can keep my changes. We'll see. Is that once we come out, now, while you have to create an account to create Kahoots, the students do not have to create an account to play a Kahoot. Just like with the doozy, you just give them the code and they log in. And they're able to do that from their cell phone. They're able to do that from their tablet, from a computer. Anything that can connect to the internet, they'll be able to do it on. It's super, super easy from the student end. Now let's go over to reports, because that's the other thing that I want to show you that I think is particularly helpful. Once your students have played the game, and you can opt for them to either play it synchronously or asynchronously. So by that, I mean, if you're setting it to play synchronously, then y'all would all be in your Google Meet or your Zoom, whatever your platform you're using this year, and you would be actually doing the game live with the students. Asynchronously, you just give them the code and they can play it whenever they want. So they can do it over and over. They can do it just once. They can do it at night. They can do it during the day. You just tell them what the assignment is and they can go forth and play the game. So up to you to decide how you would want them to engage with each one. But you'll see it gives me reports for every time that I've administered this game. So this particular one, you'll notice I did it live, and I want to open that game. And it gives me some good reports that, particularly if you're using this for formative assessment, this is what I think is going to be particularly helpful for you, because I can see that I had 98 players. There were 12 questions in there. And then it says that it takes about an hour. The reason it says that is because I was doing this in a presentation, and so the presentation took an hour. If the kids had been playing this asynchronously on their own, it would have never taken them an hour to do 12 questions. It's not that hard. You can see overall, on average, my students got 9% correct. But again, this was a group who was doing this on a topic they did not know. But just so you can see, and you can always reset it, it will show me what question or questions students had the most difficulty with. So I think that's helpful. So I can see this is the one that was the most challenging for my kids, or in this case, my adults. And on average, how long it took them to lock in their answer. So maybe they didn't do well on it because they all locked in their answer really fast and didn't take time to think about it. That can always be something that I think you can notice there. It will also break down which of my students does it feel like needs some help, is going to need maybe some review on this material, and which of my students didn't finish the game, which is also, always really good to know. So that's the information you can see here. Then if I go to players, I can actually see, so like my top player got 20%, didn't answer 8 questions, and their final score was this. And if I click on Linda, I can see that was a poll question, so no right answers. I can see how fast, so that comes in there. Points, I can see which one she got correct, which one she got incorrect, all for that student. So a lot of good information there. And I can go through my students that way. And also if I had, if I wanted to look at the need helps or the didn't finish, I can also look at it by question. So I can look at, okay, if 81% got this one right, I can look at that question, see, okay, 79 got it right, 3 got it wrong, 16 didn't answer it. I can see on average it was taking them 8.35 seconds to do this. And then I can also go to feedback. So I didn't have them do feedback on this one, but you can turn on feedback for your students if you want. And it's just where they would be able to rate your Kahoot at the end. Was it fun? Was it helpful? So if you want kind of some feedback from your students, you can always use that too. But just those are some reports that I think would be particularly helpful if you're using these games as a means of formative assessment, or just want to kind of see what's going on if the students are actually participating in the learning activities, maybe if you've assigned them asynchronously. So I think that can be helpful. Questions so far? All right, I know we go through a lot of info. Oh, it looks like we might have one. All right. So Kahoot is one of my favorites because it's super easy for the kids, and just they always tend to love it. As you'll see, I was pointing out, that was a group of adults. It's also really good to use for like professional development and training with your staff. So even if you're doing stuff with your staff, I think this is a great way to make that a little bit more engaging. You can even use it maybe at the end of a day of training if you need to find a way to kind of assess learning from your training, from your beginning of your professional development. This is a way that you could do that, particularly if you're needing to do that professional development virtually. And then you have proof that your staff took that assessment and how they did. So just, some good options. And like I said, like you saw, most everything is available on the free account. But there are a few things that might possibly be worth it for you on the upgraded version. All right, now I'm going to go to Flippity. And I must say, I'm really excited about Flippity because it really has some fun things that I'm excited to see what all of you are going to do with them, because I know that some of you are going to try these out. So Flippity, and I'll scroll up so you can see the top. Everything on Flippity is free, but because it's free, you will see like it has this ad band at the top. But you'll also see it's super easy for me to scroll and not look at that ad anymore. So these are all games that you can create using a Google spreadsheet. So you don't have to have any fancy software. You don't have to have the ability to program or do anything like that. You just have to be able to use a Google spreadsheet, which I know all of you know how to use a Google spreadsheet. That's where our planners are. So I know you can do it. Now, let me kind of show you how this is laid out. I know this says featured. This is literally all the games on this page. So what's featured is every game that's an option. There's also a tab for e-learning recommendations. So there are some that they think are particularly great for online learning, really good for online learning, good for making student study aids, for helping out teachers, can be used online, and then some that they don't suggest that you use in a virtual learning environment, because like this creates a word search that's meant to be printed. If you were to just show it on your screen, it shows the answers. So that would not be that ideal for online. But if you were trying to create some things to put into a packet to send home, these would still be good options of things that you could use. Then the third tab is called Skip the Spreadsheet. You'll notice it says, are you in a hurry? You haven't set up a Google account. Maybe you just don't want to fiddle with a spreadsheet. Here are the things that they have available that you can do without even bothering with a spreadsheet. You just put your word list in here. So I'm going to use their sample word list and show you, like if I picked the random name picker. So this would be good if you wanted a random name picker to call on students in your class. And you could use this with your in-person class when you're in person. You can use this in your virtual class. That's going to work in any setting. You just pop in those names and look. You see I've got my spinner and I click in the middle, spinny, 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 stop. It looks like China will be going first. And so you've randomly picked someone. And notice these tabs up at the top. Okay, so I can click and it's like, oh, there's my answer. Oh, that's my answer. I can get it to make me a lineup where I know, okay, Russia's first. Next up, this is great if you want to give your kid that heads up, like the next question's for you. So China, be ready, you're next. If you want to put your kids into groups of 3, it'll do random groupings for you. It'll put them into teams. It'll even make you a seating chart. So it'll set up all these different things for you just off that list of names that you put in. So, all right, let's get back out of there. And you'll notice it'll even, let me show you, like with bingo, same thing. I didn't even have to go through the work of making a spreadsheet. I just put in my random words. And I'm gonna hit cancel because I'm not ready for that. And it just made me 10 bingo cards. Now, granted, I have a lot of empty spaces because I didn't put in enough words, but it just made that for me and I did nothing. So super, super easy. Particularly, you know, thinking about if you are making some packets to send home for the non-technology piece, these can be really handy for creating that stuff for you. But I want to show you what I think are some of the most exciting ones, which are the slightly more intricate games. So I'm going to start with my favorite, which is this Flippity board game. Now, I want to show you how these are set up in general. You'll see all of them are set up the same way. They have a demo so you can see how the game works, because you don't want to go through the trouble of setting up a game only to determine that doesn't really work for what I was trying to do. It has instructions on exactly how to set it up. And then it has the template that you'll use in Google's spreadsheet. Okay, put it over in Google Drive and open your Google Sheet to be able to do it. So let's look. First, I'm going to show you the demo. And I'm going to extend my screen so you can see this full board of coolness. I have a whole board game on my screen. So I'll show you a couple of the features on this demo one, and keep in mind, you can do all of this very simply. So you'll notice I have all my little game pieces. So let's say that I'm gonna start, I'm the red piece, put myself there on the first little block. I come down, you see my dice down here, or my die. I'm gonna click it. Oh, I rolled a 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I land on this one. You can set up any of your game pieces or any of your game squares. Notice how this one doesn't have the eye, but this one has an eye. You know how, like, if you're playing Candyland, if you land on a certain square, it'll tell you jump ahead 2 or shoot back 3. That's what these little eyes are for. You click on the eye if it's on your spot, and it tells me, yay, move forward 2 spaces. So yay, 1, 2, and that's where I land. You can, by default, each of these spaces are just like these fun rainbow colors, but you can see you can change your spaces to be images of anything you want. So, you know, planets, money, candy, color, different colors, animals, whatever you want. You can set those game spaces to be whatever works for your game. Now, let's say I get my orange on there, I roll a 3, and we'll pretend I landed on something that didn't have an eye, and I've got to draw a card. So you can create cards just like you would see in like a Monopoly game that might give information. It might tell them they have to do something. And the ones in the demo show you some of the options that you can put in your game cards. So like in this game card, they embedded a YouTube video that the students would watch about imaginary numbers. And then they told them to move forward 5 spaces. what I think would be cool is if you're teaching them about, if they watch that video about imaginary numbers, give them a math problem they have to solve, and the answer of the math problem is how many spaces they move. You don't get the math problem right, you don't get to move ahead those spaces. So some fun things there. So we can, that's one game card. You can use what they call Equatio equations. That's another external program that will help you, put together these electronic equations, and you can pop those in. So some fun math things that you can use here. There we go. Desmos, this is a graphing tool. So again, another math application, most likely, if you wanted to be able to utilize a graph. There we go. You can also insert Google Drawings. So maybe you wanted to actually hand create something instead of using a ready-made image on your card, because you can also just do images, but you can use a Google Drawing. There's the web image. All right, and this is one like I was talking about with an equation, it was some type of thing that you have to answer. So what is the square root of 16? I'm gonna go with 4. So I click this check mark and the correct answer pops up, at which point that means that I would get to move however many you've stated. And it doesn't have to just be math. You could say, what is the word in Zuni for banana? Then they would click that check mark and it would pop up there and they could check their learning. So I think that's one of the cooler feature options. You can also put a link to an external website. Okay, then we're back at the beginning. Make sure we go through them all. You can also set custom images for like your beginning and your end. And then they can just play right on the screen. So again, this is something that you could have them playing together in a big group on screen. You could have them meeting in small groups to play. Lots of fun options of how they could do this. And you could also set it up as something that they could do with their families, which would be a fun way to do some family engagement. So that's what it looks like. Those are some of the options in it, but let me show you how to actually build it. So we'll go back to our original Flippity screen. And I'm going to open the template, open the instructions and go to the template. There we go. So I've already opened the template in my Google Drive. And you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs for you to use here. One key thing, and it tells you this in the instructions, but I just like to drive it in, don't touch the blue boxes. So by that I mean, see these blue boxes? These blue boxes? Don't mess with those blue boxes. That's the formatting of the game. So if you erase those, your board's not going to be quite right. Okay, now you can always just start over, but just fair warning, you erase the blue box, it's going to be not quite right. Okay, so you'll notice it's got some kind of helpful tips even in this, but the instructions are what are really helpful. So it literally tells you, make a copy of this template, where if you just click template, it pops open for you. And then it tells you how to edit the appearance of the board game. It can tell you how to edit the cards, all the different things. So it walks you through all of that. And then here's the key to making this actually turn into that board game. Once you've customized all those things, you're going to go to File, Publish to the Web, and then click Publish. that's going to make your board game, okay? So let me show you where that is. So we're in our game here on the screen. We're gonna go through and we're gonna change some of the colors. We're gonna make some of this things be different images. Maybe we're gonna put some different instructions. We're gonna go to our deck of cards and we're gonna put in different things on our deck of cards. You can even do 2 decks of cards if you want. You'll notice this is empty, but let me put in something so it shows up. On materials, the tokens, when it says token, that's those little game pieces. So you can see they've already got it set up for you. But if you wanted to make your game pieces look like something else, if you wanted your game pieces to maybe be animals, just put different images in here and it'll be animals. No problem. The dice. So right now it just has 1. But if I want 2 die, just copy that, paste it in. Now I have 2. You could have 3. You could also change what they look like. Whatever floats your boat. Then you can also see the card deck color. So they've already got it set that 1 would be blue and 1 would be green. Again, you can change what those are going to look like. So you have lots of options as far as the customization there. And then the last tab says, get the link here. This is going to be the link to your board game. Now, if I click it right now, I'll show you what happens. Wah, wah. It didn't work. Because what did I forget? Anybody? Publishing. Yeah, I saw some people mouthing along. Publishing. Exactly. So don't fret that you did everything wrong if it doesn't work. Make sure you publish. So you go up to File, Publish to the web. Make sure it says entire document because you want that whole board game you just built. Publish. Are you sure? Yes, I am. Okay. Now I'm going to go to that link. Dun da da da. I made a board game. Now, you see, I didn't go through and change everything, but those couple of things that I did change, notice I set it up so that I had 2 decks now. And if I go to that deck I made, move 3 spaces, and I said my answer was yay you. Click yay you. So it worked as I designed it. Remember, I wanted to have dice instead of a die. I have 2 now. So I roll 1, I roll 2, so I can move 9 spaces instead. So even just those couple of things that I just quickly here on screen with you changed, did that. So you can see they've really set it up in a pretty user-friendly way. And then you would just give your kids this link and they would be able to go straight to your board game. All right, questions so far on this one? We're all going to go make fun board games. Let me show you one other thing. So going back to this, if you scroll down past instructions, they do have FAQs on all the instructions. So things like if your image isn't working right, make sure that it ends in GIF, PNG, JPG, JPEG, or WebP. Okay, so, you know, it helps you with some troubleshooting things. If you want to put in something that's a Desmos, how exactly do you go about that? So it has lots of good troubleshooting things at the bottom in the FAQs. And then if we go back to our main screen,
When you have a minute, I have a question about that page that you were just at.
Yeah. The instructions one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It said up there, where did it go? Can they, somewhere on there it said, can students play remotely? Like,
Yes.
students must play on one device, either by physically being present or by screen sharing.
Yes.
So does that mean you're going to be doing the, the shaking of the die and all that, and you're going to be moving them, and they're going to?
Yes. Yeah. So on this one, you would be
doing all that for them.
Yeah, this is one where that's why it's listed on the online learning as something that there was like the great and then the good. And this one's under good because the one limitation here is that, yeah, only one person can be clicking on there. So when you're in-person learning, everybody can be doing that. But remotely, you as the teacher would lead that, but they would be able to participate. The other option, though, is that they can play that remotely. So like if you were setting this up as something that they would do with their family or with their peers at home, they can do it that way as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
All right. And then I was just a little comment. I'd probably use one die, because if I'm going to go through all that, we're going to play for a while.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, if you have 3 die, and you would be done with your game in like 3 rolls. So I like that there's that option, but yeah, that would go so fast. I very much agree. All right, so let me show you.
Oh, I have another question there.
Yeah.
Okay. So that brings me to time. So I kind of like to do my games like within 20 minutes. Do you know? You just set your dice, your die.
Yeah. So
so is it set on how big the board is, or do you know?
It is set on how big the board is. Now, I believe, and I haven't played with it to see, so I'll mess with it and see. But I believe if you just delete those bottom rows, you can cut off some of the last game squares. But let me play with it, make sure, because I haven't tried that. As far as the speed of the game, it's going to depend on a couple of things. How many players, how many numbers they can roll, because yeah, 3 die, they're going to be done really super fast. And then also how intricate the activities are. So, if they're having to watch a YouTube video or work out a math problem, it's definitely going to take them longer than if it's things where they're just recalling from memory or, looking at something on screen. So all of that will kind of determine the length of your game. So it can vary. You could make this a super fast event or really make it something that could take up more Monopoly style lengths of time. Because you could always build in lots of things that shoot them backwards if you really want to keep your kids guessing. Everybody loves to hit a booby trap in their game. Yeah, good, great questions. And like I said, I'll kind of play around with it a little bit more and see, because I hadn't tried making it shorter. There are a couple of other things in here. You'll see there's lots of other games. You can make an interactive scavenger hunt. I think that's another one that's really cool. So I would encourage you to check that one out. You can make a quiz show, kind of like Jeopardy. And, it turns out really nicely. There are things down here as we go where you can even, make like a tournament bracket, Mad Libs, so some fun things like that. There's also a self-assessment thing. So particularly if you're using this with older students and you want to give them a way that they can kind of test themselves, you can set that up. So they have lots of different things. They're always creating new games. So you can always check back because they're always coming up with new stuff. I do want to show you one thing on this e-learning recommendations though, because I didn't really explain why they put this as great. The reason why they have the scavenger hunt, the spelling words, the just general quiz that gives you a certificate, and the typing test up here is that you can set those 4 activities up so that when the kids do it, it'll automatically email you their results. So if they're working on that asynchronously, once they complete it, it'll email their results to you. And then the ones at the next level, it doesn't email you their results, but the kids could do a screenshot or take a picture, or share their screen to show you their results in these. So that's kind of what puts those at that higher tier of being ready for online learning, because it really kind of makes it even easier for you. So just some to check out if you're looking for something that might have that feature. All right. So I'm going to get out of this screen so we can see each other in case you have other questions, because we are right about at time. So I'm happy to answer any other questions. I hope those are things that would be helpful for you in the classroom. I think they would be a lot of fun and a great way to engage kids just in a different way, something new and exciting. So tell me if you'd end up trying them out. I'd love to know, how it works for you and how you're using them in your classrooms. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I do want to do 2 quick polls with you before we leave, though. They are not hard polls. I just need your opinion. So if we are able to continue these into the next couple of weeks with some other tools, I know some of you have requested things on doing assessment online, on setting up for the beginning of the year for family engagement, a number of different things. So if we're able to keep these going, I just wanted to get kind of an update on your availability, because I know that will kind of change as we head into August. So I'm going to pull up a poll just to try to make this easiest for you. So in August, which of these days work best for you, do you think? I'm not going to hold you to this. You can pick as many of these days as are applicable. The second poll is going to ask you about time of day. So just, if there are days that are preferable during the week, if all the days are great, pick all the days. But just trying to kind of get an idea, as I know some of our schedules are going to start getting a little quirkier come August. So we give you a little time to lock in.
Did not know you could do polls with Zoom. That is fancy.
We are very fancy here. And I would encourage you, check out, it's group coaching session 5, the recording for group coaching session 5, and we show you all the features of Zoom. So we show you how to set up the polls, how to set up breakout rooms, all of that stuff. So that'll Netflix that one. All right, so I'm going to go.
Was that the last one? Sorry, was that the last one? Because I missed one.
The one last week, we did ways to increase interaction and engagement with students.
Oh, I gotta watch that one.
Yeah, you'll like that one. I think it's we talked about Vocaroo, Seesaw, and Flipgrid. So that one, and that one's up. The recording's up for that one. Group coaching session 5, where we did Zoom and Google Meet, was the second week of June. I think you were on that one. All right, so I've got your days of the week. All right, and now let's do our time poll. Maybe it's not cooperating with me. There we go. All right, and then what time of day works best? And same thing, you can pick as many of these as are applicable. I'm just trying to kind of get an updated sense of what works best. And then as you're doing that, the other thing, like I said, the things that we've been going over are all based on the feedback I've been getting from you about the types of things that would be helpful, topics and such. So please keep letting me know what are those things that would be beneficial and useful. And those are the things that we will talk about, because this is really just designed to meet your needs. So just let me know. And as you're starting to play with all these tools as we're getting ready for the year, if you have questions, or if you want to get online together and look at anything, or you just want feedback, let me know. That's what I'm here for.
I have just a quick question. Where did you find your background?
Oh, my green screen?
Yeah.
Amazon.
Okay.
Yes, and I can actually, I'll send you a link to the one I got. It's green on one side, blue on the other. And
Do you
it's
know
just,
how they do that, like on TikTok, where they can put their own background of their photos? Is there
yeah,
something like that we could do, or was that like on Flipgrid too? I missed it.
yes, you can do that in Flipgrid. You can do that in Zoom. Actually, I'll do it right now so you can see.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna warn you, just because I've had this experience. One, you may want to be careful with showing students how to do it, because they may get more creative than you'd like for them to. On your end, though, the warning is it does take a good bit of bandwidth to change your green screen to an image behind you. So like I use this one when I want to pretend I'm on vacation, because it's from when I actually got to go on vacation. I vaguely recall it.
Well, I'm
Uh,
thinking of like when I'm teaching math or something, I can have the rules of, order of operations listed
yeah,
there, and
like
it's there already. Instead of like, because I was thinking about doing like a fight, or a trifold folder behind me, but like this
yeah,
is cool.
yeah. So you can do anything like this. You can use any kind of image you want and make it your background. And you also, it does not have to be like a fancy green screen purchase type thing to make a background. You can actually just go to whatever fabric store is near you and buy green fabric and string it up, and it works. Really, it's just looking for something that it can pick a color and replace it with an image. So even if you just, tack up some green fabric behind you, it'll totally work. So that's my little hack as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And uh, the other thing with the background, you can also save them. So things like that, where you're talking about, you would be regularly using the order of operations, you can save those. And then that way you can, scroll in between. Cause like I have this one, there's one I use for a different project, so that it looks like I'm in this like news studio. There's, if you want to pretend you're on the moon. So those are all pre-saved. So I'm not having to go through and redo that every time I log in. It just saves them for me, which is helpful. So yeah, a few other tips. So, okay, I've got your days and times. So I will look at that info and get with the department and get those hopefully scheduled for, in the next few days, hopefully by Friday, and get that out to you. But like I said, if you have questions, whether it be about the things that we've already covered or just things that pop up as you're starting to prepare for the new year, feel free to reach out. All of the recordings are up. So this morning I sent out that reminder email with the link to the YouTube playlist and the resource database. You can go and watch those at any point. All of the sessions are up through last week. And then I will have this session up by end of day tomorrow. So if you have any peers who weren't able to make it live, they can always watch it that way. And they can always contact with questions as well, since they weren't able to ask questions live. All right, so I see Daisy, yes, I will send you the same link. Susan.
Okay, so since I have co-teachers, and would I be able to share the video with them? It's like, hey, we're gonna play this game.
Yeah.
I need you to watch this little tutorial first.
Yeah, none of these recordings are top secret. You can share these with your whole team. Yeah, the more the merrier. Aw, I love the tiny teaching assistants.
Wah-eh.
Cute.
Hey, BB. Oh.
I don't. Every time I've seen you before, you were still cooking. Yeah, so adorable. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm happy to stay on if anybody does have any questions. But we are all set for today. Like I said, let me know if you create any games. I'm excited to see what everybody makes. I think there'll be lots of fun learning games as we start the new year. And then I'll get the new dates onto your calendar, hopefully by the end of the week.